Now, in OmniCenter, any alert can become an incident, but an incident can contain multiple alarms. So, for example, when that parent goes down, all of those unreachable devices are become children or related alarms, and then they won't generate separate notifications. Their alarms get suppressed, so it will automatically minimize the number of alerts that get sent out. You can also create rules to forcibly correlate alarms together. So, for example, if you wanted to set an alarm that says, if this particular site is having a bandwidth threshold, any latency alarms that occur for the same location are probably just related to that bandwidth. I don't need separate alerts for them, and you can put all those together. That's one of the default rules that ships with the system. But you can do that to create more complicated dependencies as well if you need to. Now, once an incident is created, it's always created in an open state. And that means that the alarms are currently either critical or down, depending on whether they're a service or a host. And those incidents are going to generate notifications, right? So it's technically in 9.1, we call this incident open actions because it can actually include things like SSH connections or PowerShell connections to forcibly restart services or to even reboot systems. So you can actually say, when this service goes down, I know all you can really do is reboot the system. It'll come back up. We can automate that process now as an action that happens on incident open. So it'll go ahead and try to reboot that system. And if it works, the incident will recover. And if not, you'll get a notification saying, hey, here's the problem. Now, you can also go into OmniCenter and acknowledge any different alert. And when you acknowledge an alert, it does a couple of different things. It'll actually stop any escalation or re-notification. And you can add notes that'll get sent out to everybody who got the alarm. So if they woke a bunch of people up in the middle of the night, the acknowledgement will tell everybody that, okay, such and such just took ownership of this incident, and it's a known problem, or whatever notes they put in will get sent out to everybody so people know whether or not they need to be working on it. So everybody knows that it's being worked on. And it'll change the color in the UI so it's immediately obvious that this is not a net new problem. This is something that's being worked on. When you acknowledge an incident, all the related alarms are acknowledged with it. So if you have a mass host outage or like a switch goes down and takes out 22 hosts with it, one acknowledgement will handle all of that. And you can acknowledge either via the web interface, you can acknowledge via our mobile app, or you can also acknowledge via email if you set that up on OmniCenter. So you can just reply to the alert email and have it send out the acknowledgement that way. Now, in OmniCenter 9, we introduced a new incident state called alarms cleared, and this is basically designed to handle flapping situations. So an incident that's showing as alarms cleared means all of the different alarms in the incident are okay now, but we're waiting to make sure it's stable before we mark it as closed. So it's basically a transitory state. And if the same alarms occur during that closure window, the incident reopens. So if it was acknowledged, it'll stay acknowledged. If it was opened, it'll go back to open, but it won't generate a new set of notifications based on that state change. It'll just mark it as reopened. Now, if you have the incident set to re-notify periodically, it will continue the same timer it was on before. So if it is set to re-notify every 2 hours until acknowledged, and it hasn't been acknowledged, if it goes to alarms cleared but then reopens, you'll still get that re-notification at the appropriate interval. It'll basically ignore that state change. But if it was acknowledged, it'll stay acknowledged. So this allows you to have acknowledgements be persistent across incidents like flapping interfaces and things like that. Finally, closed means that all the alarms in the incident have now closed. It's been stable long enough that your alarms cleared timer has expired and the incident is archived. Notification gets sent out at the close of an incident so everybody knows that the incident is closed, and then it's retained only for historical purposes. Once it's closed, it will never change state again. A new incident would be created if the same alarm occurred. Now, you'll see in a couple of places in the user interface, there's this concept of active incidents. Active incidents include anything that isn't closed. So that'll show you both open, acknowledged, as well as alarms cleared incidents. And you'll see this on the dashboard as well as in the active incidents page if you go to that page. Now, maintenance windows are an important concept in OmniCenter because they're another way that we can use to limit the amount of alerts and false alarms that are sent out. And one of the ways that you do that is by creating these maintenance windows on a per device basis. And you can multi-select by site or category if you have a large number of devices that you need to have, put into a maintenance window. These can be one-time or reoccurring, either daily, weekly, or monthly reoccurring windows. And it'll stop all the alerts for the affected devices. It'll also flag them as being in maintenance in the web interface, so you can clearly see anybody who's looking at this can tell that the device is in a maintenance window, and it'll tell you when the maintenance window starts and ends, so everybody kind of knows what's going on. You can close maintenance windows early if you want. It'll also automatically remove any in maintenance outages from the uptime report, so it'll normalize those reports for you. And as I mentioned, you can close them early if you finish early, and it'll start alarming on that system right away again. And any alarms that occur during maintenance don't create incidents, so you won't actually see anything in the incident log for any of the outages that occurred during a maintenance window.